A while ago, I made a video talking about the fact that Vegito, though it is not his fault that the game is in a weird space right now, it is the developer's fault for introducing a character like Vegito and then not understanding where the game needed to move after that. You see, for a while, it seems like people kind of didn't understand what was being said in that video, which is that you can make a character like Vegito, but if you don't undercut him in any way, if you simply just forfeit that the quote-unquote anniversary characters always dominate the year, you don't really understand what this anniversary character has done to the game, where other anniversary characters didn't really create this paradigm, right? The Dokkan isn't really run by great devs. I would say Dokkan, and most people would say this, is a game that is run by its IP. People are here for Dragon Ball. So if they can nail the animations, then people don't really care. And I think to some degree, these animations are a success in places and they're a bit of a failure in others. I would say that this super attack looks great. But one of the big things is just that some of the transformations, the intros, the audios don't really sync up, which is one big thing, but that's all cosmetic, right? So what is wrong with Goku? One of the biggest issues with Goku, and it goes back to his super attack, is that he's going to be doing like 20% of your HP. And you might be saying, well, that's fine because, you cost to do that kind of damage, but what damage is the question. They created a system wherein Goku is taking off 20% of your HP sometimes, and he's barely doing 2 bars, maybe 3 bars of current boss HP. And that's where we go back to this character, right? Because if they create bosses centered around this character's damage, which they undeniably did. We don't really need to argue this. And it's not Vegito's fault. They put Vegito in the game, they made Vegito who he is, which is that fucking dude, and then they failed to be competent beyond that, right? I think that's where people get lost in the weeds a bit when it comes to Vegetos, because they love Vegito so much, they finally got a good Super Vegito unit, and suddenly, it's like, oh, everyone's shitting on Vegito. It's not his fault. The conversation I am trying to have is that Vegito is simply the monster that Dokkan doesn't understand how to curtail. If you make it so that bosses threaten Goku, if you make it so that bosses threaten, Vegeta, or threaten the team around them, which means that you have to actually use Vegito early, we don't have this problem. But because there is nothing to threaten Vegeta or Goku, we can essentially save Super Vegito every single time. And because we can save Super Vegito every single time, it means we had to see the ballooning of HP values, right? So this is 100 million to start with, this is 150 million, this is 200 million, this is 100 million, this is 120 million, this is 100 million. This is Battle Hardened Formidable Foes. This is what we were fighting for a year. Right? This is what we were fighting for a year. This is the hardest fight in the game for a while. Dokkan or Global didn't get this for a very long time. And for that entire time, nothing threatened this fight. Right? To behave and act and close your eyes and shut your ears and be like, oh my god, it's not happening, it's not happening. It happened. It happened. So we understand that they moved the HP values forward. We understand that the game is inherently very different than it was. Even if we want to close our eyes and, cover our ears and go la 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 la. So when we get to a character like Kauken Goku, we can take that information and be like, okay, well, how has Dokkan's mishandling of Vegito created this issue? Because if you want to be Vegito, the answer to Vegito by Dokkan was the laziest possible one. It wasn't to make fights more difficult, it was to make them last artificially longer. If you fight certain bosses in Dokkan now, it's really not a matter of if your team can survive. A lot of times, if you're just running a good team, you're just waiting out the clock. And if you want to snap that clock out of existence, you just turn Vegito on and end the fight completely. The fight just ends immediately, right? He just does too much damage, he taunts, it's over. The fight ends. And he is the character that does that. So bosses technically don't have as much HP as they seem to. They don't have 1.5 billion HP once Vegito starts talking. They don't have 1.2 billion HP once Vegito starts talking. Unless he's not there. So, fast forward to a character like this. So they wanted to put 1.5 billion HP in the game, which is extremely high. They wanted to put 150 million in the game, which is extremely high. They wanted to take us to, which one would it be? I think it would be the Goku one. They wanted to talk about like Jiren, right? And give him 550 million and 350 million with an AoE, which is extremely high. Again, this is where we were before. And the character that looks like he does the most immediate bang damage to those characters is Vegito, by and large. So when we get characters like Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku, who is coming out and doing very pithy amounts of damage, very moderate amounts of damage, but he's also draining you 20%, HP 20%. It becomes very obvious that he is affecting you that way, because he's not killing the enemy. Maybe if the HP values didn't balloon in such a drastic way, because remember, who were the characters that were dominating Goku and Frieza's HP bar? Characters dropping 20 million attack stats, like UI Goku, like AGL UI Goku, like Vegeta, you know, characters who were operating in the 20 million to 25 million range pretty consistently, characters who were critting, characters who had these like additionals baked in to their kits were dominating that fight. And it looked like it, because this 100 million value meant that the bar would shrink the moment it made contact. If he 52 million revive supers, it shrinks the moment he makes contact. If he does a 52 million revive counter to this character, it looks irrelevant, right? It's one of those things where when that was initially talked about, it kind of wasn't understood what exactly I was getting at, and I really don't want to make this a problem of, you know, Vegito every time. You know, it doesn't make any sense. But it's coming. It really does get to a point where the character isn't really doing anything remarkable defensively. The character's not supporting the team. The character's not canceling attacks or, you know, providing a taunt or doing this or doing that. I mean, I guess they're reviving, but I mean, you know, they're putting that revive on a team that's already, I mean, that team is bound to die. They made him evasion with dodge canceling fights. The only way they actually save this character is if they make a fight so difficult that it doesn't have dodge canceling. Which they're not going to do, probably. I mean, probably, right? They're not going to do. So, when it comes to, like, shit like this, and you start seeing people post, like, takes it, like, we're back in 2023 of Dokkan, like, you know, we got the truth on the front lines trying to, you know, cape for the god, but let's be honest, like, why defend Dokkan when they're making such a ludicrous decision, right? Dokkan is consistently dividing the community, but the part of the community that doesn't understand like why this character is a problem, or why we can't continue to have a character like, you know, in God of the Game, Vegito just absolutely fists the game with no counterplay, is he is affecting how they make these fights, but he's not affecting it in an interesting way. He's not making us use our actives on Gold Frieza and Android 17. He's just making the fights long. And when we make the fights long, and we start adding characters who don't do his damage, because they still just want you to chase Vegito all year, what are we doing? Every character is going to continue to feel like shit as they release them. It's to the point where, if you genuinely asked me, if you strictly asked, should I summon on Golden Week? I'm going to pull on Hit, right? I'm going to pull on Hit because I think his team's going to be fun. And, you know, maybe I'll go into the Festival of Battles with him. You know, he's a new Hit. He's very unique because he's Hit. And we're probably not going to get a hit for a while, right? So I'm going to pull on him. And I'm probably going to pull on Part 2 Kefla when they drop that. The thing is, though, when you really do think about it, we're currently we're at the standpoint with Dokkan as a gacha, where why would you actually pull? If you're free to play or low spending, and you only have such a limited amount of stones each month, each major celebration, can you explain to me why you've pulled at all lately? If you have Vegito, why are you pulling? You cannot make the argument to me that you should be. And that's a really weird, shaky spot for a gacha to be in. And I guess I'll make one more point and then we'll get out of here. One of the reasons that's such a weird spot to be in comes to a game like JJK Phantom Parade, which is not the pinnacle of gacha or anything. Phantom Parade is okay. It's okay. One of the reasons I kind of casually pick it up here and there and just save my stones is because in Phantom Parade, so many of the characters beat all of the content, and Dokkan has only recently gotten this problem with Vegito, where the content has become so homogenized, so based around large HP values, without any of the characters' kits shining through, that so long as you pulled for Vegito and then got Gogeta with your ticket, because they gave you a free Vegito, they gave you a free Gogeta, right? You don't actually need to pull on anything. In the same way that in JJK Phantom Parade, you pull on Yuta and Gojo here, so Gojo here, and then Yuta's here, and you didn't really need to pull on anything else on Global until Sukuna is going to show up and Domain Gojo is going to show up. If you pulled on anything else, you're like an idiot. I don't mean that, but I mean I'm just, being extreme. If you pulled on anything else, you got robbed. They robbed you. They took your money. Because every other character who's easy to get is in standard banner, is on random banners that you'll find. Characters like Blue Gojo, they'll just pop up eventually, right? They don't actually power creep the game at all. One of the biggest complaints in Phantom Parade is that they aren't power creeping the game hard enough, which is a crazy thing to think about, right? And we're actually kind of looking at that with Dokkan, genuinely, because they created God of the game Vegito, and they made him so broken that he warps HP values. They're refusing to actually add in other characters who feel like they compete with him at all. And it's not Vegito's fault. If you want Super Vegito, this isn't saying boo you for wanting Super Vegito, but it is saying that they're incompetent. You can't this is a major celebration. We're in a major celebration right now. One of the 4 characters revealed last night looks like they're good. And if I'm honest, you don't really even need to pull for him, which is crazy. The most important thing about these major celebrations is they give us fun teams, and we finally get more of the sandbox to play with. But what does Hit provide, even as the good character from this celebration, that you don't already have? Nothing? I don't know. It's a very odd place for Dokkan to be in. It's the reason I talked about Vegito as sort of an issue that Dokkan themselves can't fix, because it has nothing to do with just Vegito in a vacuum. But Dokkan does not know how to fix this problem, even though there are many ways they could. And even if maybe they do, maybe they 100% understand how to stop Vegito from being the by far best character in the game, and they're just refusing to because instead they could make you summon for him. It's dire, man. And the next fight that comes out in Dokkan, I imagine is gonna have like 2 billion HP. And guess what? Gonna feel really fucking bad taking your golden weak characters in there and doing like half a bar and then passing the turn. You know what I mean? So we'll see, we'll see. Anyway, if you like the video, subscribe to go to the club. We all go make it and